You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Hi, Mike. Are you there?
Yeah, I am here. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. You're my third interview of the day.
Third interview of the day. All right. Makes me feel a little less special, but that's okay. Are you ready to get started?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
No, it's a media day. I got it. I understand. I understand. All right, let's get started here in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is a wrestler who is appearing in the upcoming Fuse documentary, Out in the Ring. He is Mike Parrow. Are you with me, sir?
Yeah, I am. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's such a pleasure to have you on the line. And I just had on Ry Levy, the director of the film, last week. And I guess the first question should be, what made you decide this was the right documentary to attach your name to and to be part of?
Well, it was kind of like a whirlwind kind of experience, because right before Ryan contacted me, the interview that I did months prior had come out, and overnight it kind of went a little bit viral. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I was always afraid of people knowing about me was I was gay, and then overnight everybody knew I was gay.
Right.
And then so Ryan had contacted me, tell me that he had started this documentary, and he told me all about it, and I decided that, people need to hear our story, and visibility matters. And I wanted to be told by somebody part of the community rather than somebody that was doing a documentary. It's very hard to tell our story when you're not part of the community, because you there's little nuances and little things that when you're putting it together, the emotion changes. And Ryan, I don't know if you have seen the documentary yet.
Unfortunately, no, I have not. I've seen the trailers, the multitude of trailers, but unfortunately, not the full thing. I'll be watching on Fuse when it airs.
It's amazing. It's one of, and I'm not just saying that because I'm in it. There's just how it came out. You learn stuff that I didn't even know, and then it brings back a lot of emotions of how I felt at the time. I watched it with Sonny Kiss, and both me and Sonny teared up during the whole thing. And afterwards, we ourselves organically stood up and gave it a standing ovation. That's how good that it came off. Because there's documentaries out there that they're okay. They're documentaries. But this one is kind of like, it takes you through a little bit of a ride, but then you find out what's really going on. You see the history, you see what the people before us went through, and then all of a sudden you see this new crop, this new younger generation, hungry, excited, and cheerful at the same time. And Ryan does an amazing job of articulating that to a newer audience. Definitely watching it. I've seen it like 3 times now, and each time I learned something new about something I didn't know about my own friends. So, it's one of those things that I'm very grateful that I took the opportunity to sit down with Ryan a couple years ago and make this documentary. Even look at it, I was like, I look so young.
Well, we are just about the same age. I am a heterosexual guy, but I also am Catholic. And I also was kind of, sort of a wannabe athlete. You definitely were a far superior athlete than I ever was. I guess I could see, there's a bond there that I could connect with you that I didn't think I would connect to with certain people. And maybe that's my own pig-headed view on things, but you're a guy's guy who just happens to be gay, as opposed to the caricatures that we've seen throughout wrestling over the years, where everything has to be so flamboyant and so over the top. Is that something that's important to you, that you convince people or teach people that you could be a legitimately fantastic athlete and just happened to be a gay guy?
The one thing I want to say is visibility matters. If I had to learn, even after this documentary, I don't represent the whole community. I represent the athlete I needed to see when I was young, because it would have changed my whole life. I wouldn't have tried to kill myself. I wouldn't have thought I was an embarrassment. I wouldn't have thought I was alone. What people don't understand is being an athlete and being closeted, you don't get to reach your full potential because you're always hiding a part of you. So it's not, you're already at a disadvantage of any other athlete you're on the field with, because you're not allowed to be you. My best career has just started just because my best work is because I'm now getting to do the art I wanted to do. I get to be the athlete I wanted to be. And, you know, the importance of visibility in wrestling is crazy, because kids need to see this. Kids, like, the problem I've learned is coming out is we're viewed, like, I've said this in multiple interviews, but I learned that our straight counterparts view us as sex, so it's easy to dismiss us. So I've learned that, you know, straight people don't look at themselves as sex, but gay or LGBTQ in any way, shape, or form represents a political matter. I'm just me. I was born this way. I'm not in politics. Right? I'm not political. Right? Exactly. And we now somehow, us being ourselves, or even kind of having any kind of storyline, because the number one they want to represent is what they perceive gay to be. That, you know, there's whole communities of me. I'm not the only masculine gay man in the world. There's millions of us. There's a whole community of bears, you know. Like our straight counterparts, first of all, we have nobody backstage that is LGBTQ writing for us or representing us or fighting for us. That's the number one. They're both billion-dollar companies. WWE itself has no openly gay men, as I know of, on the roster, and AEW has one. So you're telling me out of the thousands of pro wrestlers out there, nobody else is warranted an opportunity? You can't have LGBTQ storylines if you don't have LGBTQ wrestlers on your roster more than one. And you know what you said was these flamboyant characters is because that's what they think. Yep. And the number one thing I learned is, as long as they feel stronger than women, or they remember, a lot of times I've learned that they think we're women, and so they'll write that. Now, is there feminine parts of our community? Of course, but there's feminine straight men too. I know a lot of them.
Me too. You're right.
Masculine that I'm like, bro. I even question, so, you know, that doesn't have anything to do with being gay, is you being feminine or masculine. That's the weirdest concept I also see, is like, all straight men are super masculine. No, they're not. At all. I have tons of friends that aren't overly masculine. They're more nerdy than they are anything else. Right. But for somehow being a gay man, the only thing that perceives to them is, the only thing that other people will understand is if you're feminine. And so they try to over-feminize people and don't let them be who they are. Because if you let the artist be organically who they are, that's why everybody raves about the Attitude Era and the 80s. Those are characters allowed to be who they are. And the characters that didn't work were characters that were just stupid. and they were made by somebody else. But the real ones, the Dusty Rhodes, the Roddy Pipers, that was organically them. The Stone Cold Steve Austins, The Rock, those were their personalities times 1,000. So imagine if you just let our personalities times 1,000. Trust me, the LGBTQ community are highly entertaining. And, you know, I learned that homophobia isn't the word of just saying the F word to somebody, or you're gay. That's not, or I don't like that guy because he's gay. Real homophobia, I've learned, is this quietness, this You know, we're in a business that makes money, and you're telling me RuPaul's Drag Race is $1 billion industry at this point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. People watch that weekly. Viacom put it on MTV. So that means it's making money. So you're telling me that wrestling itself as a community can't benefit from having gay fans? Can't benefit from, like, Effie's Big Gay Brunch draws so much, and that's all queer and allied fans having a great time, because you know what? They've felt forgotten, and wrestling is supposed to represent everyone. Absolutely. That's what wrestling is. That's why you can go and see a multimillionaire sitting next to a person that spent their last $20 just to see the wrestling event, because it represents everyone. And when you're not doing that, you're doing a disservice to the art, and you can't grow the business.
All right. It's kind of a silly question, but I've always asked it, and I'm going to keep asking it because it always garners a different response from almost everybody. What was it about professional wrestling that appealed to you in the first place, and at what point did you decide this is something you wanted to do with your life?
It's fun. This is a two-pronged question.
Yeah.
What I thought I liked about pro wrestling, and
when you first fell in love with it, when you first said this is, because I mean I know what it was like Hulk Hogan and Junkyard Dog hamming it up in the ring, and I was like, that's it. I don't know why I like this, but I like this. That was it, and that was kind of 35, 40 years ago, and here I am still doing, still watching and still doing it.
So I started watching wrestling when I was young, because my next door neighbor, who were my pretend grandparents, they were my grandparents to me, but they weren't my biological grandparents. They were my next door neighbors. And when I was young, her mother was from the Ukraine, and when she came to America, they told her the two things for her to be the most American were to watch pro wrestling and the Dallas Cowboys. Huh. I love the Dallas Cowboys, and I love pro wrestling. and then I became infatuated with the ambiance of it. Mm-hmm. It's just the story. It's a living comic book. And the more I got into it, the more I'm like, I fell in love with these characters, and I was like, I want to be this. And then I saw Mick Foley. And Mick Foley made me believe I could be a pro wrestler. He was different from everybody else. And in a way, it's kind of what I am now. I think that we're part of the community. We are a little bit different than everybody else. Our thought processes are different. The way we approach the business is different. So, I would say Mick Foley really was the reason I'm a pro wrestler today.
I love it. That's awesome.
And the funny thing was, I wouldn't say he's my favorite wrestler. He's the reason. Mm. There's other wrestlers that I was like, wow, these guys are super entertaining, like The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Chris Jericho. I learned from the Dudley Boys. That's who trained me. Bubba and Devon. That era had so many great wrestlers. But Mick was the one that made me believe I could do this and maybe see the art in wrestling. Before Nick, I didn't see the art, and he made me see the real true art of wrestling.
Absolutely. And the first time I saw you in the ring was with Evolve, and Evolve was a company that was kind of cool because it was underground, so you had to kind of look for it if you wanted to watch it, but it was also kind of sort of had that WWE ties to it, to where you knew they were kind of being watched by WWE. I guess the simple question is, do you miss having Evolve around, and how important was Gabe Sapolsky and Evolve to your progression as a professional wrestler?
I would say, first of all, I miss any organization that's around. Wrestling is only better when there's more places for people to work. It gives fans that necessarily wouldn't go to a WWE show, that would go to a Evolve show, they get to have access to great wrestling. And Gabe himself is important to wrestling itself. Gabe is one of the founders, one of the people of ROH from the beginning. He currently works for WWE. And for Gabe, not in a wrestling standpoint, but more as a personal standpoint, Gabe, when I came out, it didn't change Gabe's opinion of me. Mm-hmm. He still hated me just as equally. Gabe was very intense to work for, but I also got to learn a lot. Not even just in the ring, backstage, how a business is run. He gave me the opportunity to learn a lot about how the business on the other end is ran. I got to learn just not being a wrestler, what it takes to run a show, because when you're running an independent company, it's all hands on deck. It's not just, there's not a staff of thousands. It's like you. And, I would, for Gabe, both Gabe, Sal, and Trevin, they believed in this character. They were, I would say, Gabe, Sal, Trevin, and Court from MLW were the first to believe in a gay badass when everybody else said a gay badass would not work.
There you go.
Where everybody told me nobody would believe a gay badass. And I was like, why wouldn't they believe if I just murder people? Because that's what I do. But, other promotions, other people thought it was a terrible idea. And Gabe was like, nope, sounds good. You feel comfortable with it? Is this what you feel comfortable with? And I said, yep. And he goes, then we're going to do it.
Awesome.
And he did it. No questions asked. He just went forward with it. And sometimes you need that in wrestling. People that are willing to do stuff that hasn't been done before. And companies like Evolve would do stuff that hasn't been done before. And if you look, that Evolve roster that I was on, everybody seems to be very successful.
Absolutely. And two more questions. I know you got another interview coming up, so I'll try to make them quick ones. In that faithful interview that you did where you kind of came out to the whole world, you did say that at that time, Evolve and MLW was your home companies. I guess today you would probably say GCW is your home company, and GCW has a little bit of that underground spirit that ECW had back in the day. How important is a company like GCW to the realm of professional wrestling in the modern era?
There would be no AEW without a GCW. There would be no different, no NXT without a GCW. GCW is able to change the landscape of professional wrestling. Whether you want to say it or not, I would say they're the number 3. Impact or the new TNA. They do well, but I would say when it comes to fan bases, I would say GCW has some of the most loyal, rabid, cult-like following. There's nothing like being in front of a GCW crowd. Nothing. And I'll tell you this: when they think your match is bad, they will tell you. GCW has been one of the most rewarding experiences. I love the family atmosphere backstage. There's not really politicking like other companies to get a position, because that's not how GCW does matches. Everybody's working together. Everybody's pitching storylines for each other. And oh my God, I have a great idea for Effie. I have a great idea for, or Blake will say, well, why doesn't Parrow do this? Something that's different to me, and I think that comes across to the fans of GCW. It's the authenticity, the realness, and everybody is still the fan that, this is fun. Wrestling is fun. And also, you want to know why it's successful? Because GCW doesn't lock people in genders. They don't lock women in genders. You're not I call it gender jail, where a woman can't wrestle a man, because that's women abuse, but you've seen thousands of movies where the Black Widow is the hero. So you're just assuming that every woman is just going to get beat up by men. and then women are weak. So I hate that. We don't jail people in their sexuality. It was like, oh, you're gay, you're going to have to fight a woman, or you're gay, you're going to have to lose, or you're gay. Everybody doesn't do that.
Nope.
Everybody has an active story, and I like being part of it. And plus, you have people like Nick Gage being like a real great locker room leader. You have Matt Cardona being, I hate to ruin this for people, but he's awesome with people. Just backstage. You know, he's one of the greatest things helping young kids. You know, he's always has ideas, and, you know, it's awesome to see that from a guy that came from, you know, sometimes when they come off of television, it's not the greatest experience. And Matt was the total opposite. Matt has fun, it shows, and it his hard work rubs off on everybody else in the locker room.
Absolutely. And my final question for you, because I know we're coming close to time when I got to hit, so I'm sorry about that, and I'd love to talk to you again someday. But the final question is, of course, back to the documentary. It is going to be airing on Fuse. How huge is that to get as many eyeballs as possible on such an important piece to your community?
Like I said, visibility matters. And after watching those documentaries, the first thing I said to Ryan, everyone needs to see this. And honestly, go out of your way to find it. It is heartfelt. It is touching. It's authentic. And you'll see that we can't do this by ourselves. We need allies. We need friends. We need people saying, I want to see their stories, because I can say every day on every interview that visibility matters and that people need to see our stories. But until we have fans that are clamoring for it, because that really, when you support independent wrestling and when you support gay wrestlers or anybody from the LGBTQ community, that's what makes it go to major corporations and television. That's when they take risks. When they see all the fans clamoring behind something, that's when they do it. They feel safe where they are, and until you ask for it, they won't do it. So the more you support this documentary, the more you support everybody in this film, the more you go out and find different wrestlers and watch an FEC Gay Brunch, support a GCW. The more LGBTQ storylines are going to make it to your television, and the more it's going to change some little kid's life for the better. And they're not going to kill themselves, or they're not going to feel alone. They're not going to feel, they're going to be successful in life because they were able to see somebody that represented them for the first time in their life.
Absolutely. That's the goal. Well, man, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm sorry to pass you straight off to somebody else because I know it's about that time, but thank you for taking the time. That was a blast, and I thank you again for taking the time to join the Wrestling Epicenter today.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. I appreciate it.
All right.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
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 Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, for us.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze.
The Blaze rock.
You're a maniac, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter.
The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody.
Viva la raza.
Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey guys, we had a lovely conversation. First lady, absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky. Be there.
Where else?
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh my God! You win! Love being interactive.
Whoa! I was gonna shoot him. Yeah. I almost missed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I heard a lot about you guys. Let's go. I see my language. Getting over the shot. I see him now. We're the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's gonna be cool. Woo! What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Champion. Arrogant.
Jesus makes me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you. Charisma.
So lonely without you.
Yeah.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive. Interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive. Interview with a plastic
You
head.
earn the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire.
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure to tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer. Knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.